Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. Also, welcome to 2026. Today I have played a 4v4 tow match on Friedland. I was playing as the 7-point Prussian army today, alongside with this Austrian army who is acting as my support teammate here. And to start off, both of us noticed that the French player opposing us has done a good job of isolating himself, with the three other French players seemingly wandering elsewhere on the map. Austria goes for a cheeky little charge on this French unit trying to garrison the building here. Might be a slight rule break as it was almost entering the building when contact was made, so naughty. But France comes in with a little counter charge, a la Austria, throws both of his cavalry at it. And I happen to notice that another French cavalry unit comes flying out of the woods trying to counter the Austrian cavalry here, so I get a nice little side charge on them. And I happen to notice a rather large cuirassier unit charging my light, so I'm very quick to pull them back. And I've got the horse guns set up to start putting down just a little bit of menacing fire. And the French player here is not really doing a whole lot. They're deploying into line, they're sending a few of their infantry units to my left. So what I'm doing is I'm just sending the skirmishers into the woods to hold them off while my main column advances. I'm really hoping to not have to send too much infantry into the woods on the left here, and I'm just hoping that the skirmishers can hold them off by themselves, which will allow me to do quite an aggressive push if all goes well. So start moving the skirmishers up just to act as a screen to keep fire off my infantry. And here's just a shot of the battlefield. You can see my army's advancing onto the French player in front of me, and there's not much elsewhere to support the player that's in front of me, and you'll see that Austria is making use of the roads to sort of cut down through the middle and perform an isolating maneuver. So once Austria's across this little river here, the French player will be completely cut off and nobody will be able to save him. A lot of the strategy in this mod just comes down to concentration, which was actually one of Napoleon's tactics. His art of war was basically concentrating a large amount of force on a weak point and exploiting breakthroughs. So yeah, I threw the cavalry in here just to get this infantry out because they were quite close to my column. That would have hurt if nothing was done about them. And I managed to get through and get a run on the guns, so that's quite nice. The French player here could have done a little bit more to protect his guns and possibly support that infantry that was advancing on the woods. He's also getting skirmisher shot poured into the side of him here, so it's not a great position to be in. And we have the magnificent advance of the Prussian column. France has fallen back into the woods here. If you are new to the mod, if you are firing from within a wooded area, you will take less damage as opposed to someone who is outside the woods. So it's always a great position to be in. And what I'm doing here is I'm just using my skirmishers to act as a screen against their skirmishers and the few units of infantry that they've got out there, just to support the side of my column as it pushes up. Now, I do have a lack of squares here, so if the French player had thrown his cuirassiers straight into this mass of soldiers, he would have done quite a good job of throwing them back. And here we go, we're starting to run up to the French in the woods, so I'm deploying the the soldiers into line so they can start getting some return fire going. It's a little bit difficult to make room for my cavalry to act on the infantry as Austria is right up next to me and there's just not many gaps. So I'm pulling my infantry back just to make a little room. And here we go, we've got a little bit of a gap here. It's quite hard to work with, but we'll see what we can do. So for any good column attack, you're going to need to throw in your cavalry first, just to throw off the infantry and stop them returning fire as you're moving in. And you need to fully expect to take quite a heavy loss when you perform this kind of attack. At least the front few units, and perhaps your cavalry is going to get shot to absolute pieces. But it will be worth it in the end. So my cavalry make contact here and send the first unit running straight away, which is wonderful to see. And we turn it around to get the rest of them. Austria to my right is doing a good job of throwing off a lot of that French infantry as well. Although my front unit here, you can see it's redlining a little bit. It's taking some horrific losses, but it's just the price you've got to pay when you make an attack like this. Yeah, here's just a quick little clip showing how much damage it took. You'll notice it's pretty much at half strength, 60 out of 129. So it's got a 50% loss ratio in possibly around 20 seconds. That's the kind of damage you're gonna take doing this sort of thing. And you can see the skirmishers are doing a wonderful job of just keeping my left nice and clear, just keeping the French skirmishers off of me. And I'm trying to decide where to send the rest of my troops. Seeing as we have very quickly knocked out this French player, I'm thinking about where will be best to redeploy the army for the rest of the battle. And I just throw the cavalry in here to chase down some of these fleeing units. Because if you don't run them down and cut them down like dogs, they'll come back and fight again, so you've got to make sure they're farmed. And it also helps your battle discussion screenshot. Here we go, so we can just see what the Allied left flank looks like. It's turning into a bit of a nasty forest fight. The French occupying these woods. It's quite hard to throw them out. And on this side we have a bit of a calamitous disaster going on. Russia is playing quite aggressively, although now he's turned the majority of his infantry corps around and he's using his supporting units to kind of cover the retreat. But he's taking some quite heavy losses here. And I've set up my 6-pounders, just putting on some flanking fire on the French here, just to keep that flank open. And you can see my troops marching down the road here, and I've got a choice to make. Do I go left and support Austria's right, or do I march upwards and try and support Russia, who looks like they're going to be run across this bridge and ran down if they don't receive any support? And here we can see the crossing becomes quite perilous with that French cavalry just going straight in. It's definitely a massacre. It's why crossing operations in this game are so dangerous, and you've got to execute them very carefully, because if you don't, this is the kind of thing that'll happen, and it will just become a mess, and you'll lose a lot of units trying to get across. And here we go. We can see the cost of that crossing for the Russians. Definitely not very good, to say the least. So I've sent my units over to the right, but at the last moment I sort of changed my mind. I come to the decision that the amount of infantry Russia got across, they should be able to hold that crossing. So I see it as the best interest to go and cover Austria's right flank, as there is a large amount of French infantry pulling up, which is quite frightening to see. And the French are making a run on my guns already, and I unfortunately was too late to do anything about it. I set my cavalry on the countercharge too late, and I just don't manage to save them. And also to top all that off, I pull through my own guns as well, so that was a bit naughty by me. Yeah, definitely a big slap on the wrist for me there. I shouldn't have done that, but things happen, I guess. And you can just see I've got a bit of a calamitous crossing of my own going on here. We've got a huge volume of French infantry advancing, and my men have literally got to scramble up the cliffs to get into a firing position before the French descend on me. And I was very lucky to get the horse artillery set up here. I think this was my only saving grace, as we'll see in a few minutes. But just the thousands of men running across the stream, and you can see in the background just the French are already deployed into line. If they had been just a bit more aggressive, they could have run me down so easily. You know, if they'd have set up their own column attack and just gone straight into me with cavalry as well, it quite probably would have ended my entire army on the spot. But I do luckily get set up 2 units in line to protect the rest, and these horse guns firing canister into the French really do a lot to stop my position from being overrun, so I was very grateful for that. And you can just see the thousands of French soldiers that were about to descend upon me. So I now see myself in a position where I cannot really do a whole lot. I've not got a whole lot of cavalry for making offensive plays. My guns have been taken, apart from the ones on the side. And a lot of my infantry is, well, it's good in shooting, it's not incredible in melee, so the only thing I can realistically do here is hold Austria's flank. Just seeing the huge volume of French in front of me as well, and being a 7-point army, the only realistic thing for me to do is just hold the flank and hope that some gains can be made elsewhere. And we will see that the rest of this fight just devolves into a horrible slugging match. Again, these horse guns have really done a lot to hold the French up from overrunning my position. But in watching the replay back, I do think that the French, if they'd really decided to push, they could have overrun my position. You can see a few of my units were redlining just there. Although I am really putting the hurt on the French as well. You can see thousands of dead soldiers on the ground. Well, maybe not thousands, but a good few hundred. And they do decide to advance. They're being a little bit more aggressive here. And they do have a fair amount of artillery set up. But because it's deployed just behind a hill, a lot of the shots end up bouncing and don't actually make contact with my infantry. And the French here are looking quite raggedy. The Prussian lines simply refuse to retreat. The iron will of the Kaiser. They stand here and they fight until they're dead. It seemed to be the theme of this game. Again, the French here, while they do have huge numbers, and they do have, although you can't see it, they've got a fair bit of cavalry in the back, they just don't really make any plays with it, which is really what is undoing them here. They're not making any offensive plays, and when France finds itself stuck in a line fight against the coalition, things just tend to slowly grind in favour towards the Allies. And here we can just see it's just a continuing line fight. The shooting stats of my Prussians probably averaging around 21 to 22, which might just edge out the French a little bit. So there's no conceivable way the French will win in a line fight here, unless they're gonna start using some of that cavalry. And I still see that as my goal in this game, is to simply hold the flank at all costs and refuse to retreat. I'm starting to accrue some very heavy losses. As you can see, there's quite a few unlucky people on the floor there that have just been mown down. This line fight probably went on for a good 10 minutes, which in this mod is quite a long time to be stuck in a line fight for. But yeah, it was just really horrible watching all your friends die beside you sort of moment. And you can see the French are suffering equally as much, yet they're unable to do much about it. So at this point in the match, I've moved my horse guns over to this side of the river because some French units returned from the First Army and it kind of pressured my position on the other bank, so I had to pull them across quite quickly. But you can see here that the French are starting to advance on me, but in all honesty, at this point it's just too late. They've taken too much loss. The units that are pushing me are redlining already, you can see, and they're probably at half strength. It's just not going to work out. Even if my units themselves have taken horrific losses as well, they just don't really have the kind of momentum to perform any kind of assault like that anymore. Elsewhere in the battle you can see that Austria and Russia has gone across to the other side and back onto our side behind me. And he's now rotated just in between me and Austria, and he's performing quite a gallant assault here. And they managed to crumble the rest of the French line. So the battle is already looking to be turning in our favour. There's quite a large number of French across the way, but they don't really seem to be doing anything aggressive enough, which is the kind of action they'll need to take if they want to win at this point. And here we go, just firing a little bit of canister into the lines. The range might be a little bit far for canister, but it's probably just as effective as round shot at this range. And here we go, the French have decided to retreat, ominously firing back through the fog. Things are turning against them, and the battle is lost at this point for the French, so it's just a matter of running down the last of the remaining units and finishing them off. It was a really horrible fight in this part of the map, and thousands of people ended up dying on both sides. But it was quite a good fight. As a 7-pointer, it was quite a challenge trying to hold it all together. But I really like playing as a 7-point Prussia. I've not played them before. I do like the 8-pointer, but the 7-pointer I've not tried before. It's quite good actually. So yeah, let me know what you think. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to let me know, and make sure to subscribe to hang around, because I will be posting in the future. Sorry for the months-long delay in not posting anything, but I'm back now, so thank you very much.